All right, we got round 5 getting started here, and just a heads up, we actually have 2 round 5 games because of an issue that we had with the pairings on Battle 5. We actually had to repair, so everybody kind of went into their first game, played it, and wasted a little bit of time because we didn't need to play that round. So, first up for round 5, we have B1tter versus Melhor here, and we're going to see who's able to take it. Both players I have yet to see casting, right? So good to have B1tter streaming for us to go ahead and catch this, especially since they are both currently 4-0. So let's see who's able to pick up the first win of round 5, as we will have another game, like I mentioned. Round 5, OLS 13. B1tter versus Melhor, and we have the Draven Darius. I'm excited that we repaired the rounds now. I am very happy. This is going to be a great match here. Very excited to see, and it looks like it's either Pirate Aggro or TF Swain. I haven't looked at the deck list yet of.
It's TF Swain.
TF Swain. Okay, cool. So this will be a good determination of how good this Draven Darius deck actually is.
There are some anomalies in this TF Swain deck. No Krusty Codger, no Betty Croaker. We're back on deckhand. We've got House Spider, got Triple Petty Officer.
Ooh, okay. Triple Petty Officer.
He got demoted due to the nerfs, but has been able to rise his way back through the ranks. He is once again an officer, and he is going to see play here by Melhor.
Wow, that's definitely a card that we've been seeing cut a lot more lately due to, the recent nerf from going down to 2 to 1 health. So, very interesting choice as far as that's concerned. Yeah, 3, and then 1 Noxie and Guillotine as well. Looks like people starting to kind of gravitate back towards the Noxie and Guillotine instead of the Landmark Removal Scorched Earth version of the card, essentially. And this deck from the side of B1tter, though, off to a pretty good start as far as going wide. We are going to at least be able to push through the 2 damage with the Precious Pet. This will give us a really good turn 4 if we can keep this field, but against a TF Swain deck, I gotta think something's getting removed here.
And this is sort of the ideal opener for B1tter. You get one of the best 1-drops in the deck into a go wide 2-drop. You get a go up with Iron Ballista, and then lo and behold, here comes Crowd Favorite on turn 4. Going to be a 6/5. And you are not very susceptible to any specific removal out of Melhor. I mean, Make It Rain with a keg is going to be absolutely devastating, but as far as the amount of 1 HP units that you have, it's not like you're losing your entire board here. It would be a shame to have this get cleaned up before the Crowd Favorite, but because this is a nerfed Make It Rain, you are going to get down the Crowd Favorite on your first priority sequence before any of these units can be removed.
Yeah, wow. Okay, you want to talk about curves? This hand feels so good curve-wise. You have Crowd Favorite. You're going into your opponent having the attack token on turn 5 where you can play a Decimate. Turn 6, you have the attack token. You have a Darius.
This is so not to get your hopes up, but I mean, looking at, and I think this is what B1tter was thinking of, Twisted Fate Ravenous Flock is borderline game over.
Yeah, Twisted Fate is definitely going to be pretty backbreaking here. We'll see if that is what Melhor is able to...
I think it has to be combined with a Flock with only 2 mana, and it's very, very reasonable for Melhor to have that Flock, but as long as the Crowd Favorite can get to push through a little bit of damage, turn 5 you throw out a Decimate, turn 6 if the Darius is leveled by the time that it comes down, you're actually feeling like you're in a really good spot, especially with that Decisive Maneuver. Yeah,
and, Decisive Maneuver less impactful just because we don't have as wide of a board now. But, these Overwhelm units, they're still going to do work. If there's a Ravenous Flock, Jesus, man. Okay. So, we had the perfect opener from B1tter. We had the more perfect opener from Melhor. Basically everything to counter it. We are still doing a little bit of damage, but this is not going to be enough damage to get Darius down on curve and still get him leveled up right away. So we'll see what we decide to do here on this next turn. We do, like you said, have the Decisive Maneuver that we can eventually push through some damage. We could do something like Decimate.
I don't think you can Decimate here. You probably need to block that Swain. Yeah. That is just a lot of damage being pushed through, and Noxie and Fervor then suddenly very close to lethal. And Not only was the Twisted Fates play devastating for Bitter's board, but that was 10 damage ticked towards the Swain evolution. Just that one turn, Swain goes from 0 to 12, and now we have to throw out an extremely mediocre blocker. We don't have a good follow-up. We don't have a way to deal with the Swain. Things are disastrous for Bitter. He took the lines that I think he needed to take because that was a relatively weak open attack. I think that it was always correct to play the crowd favorite there, and Melhor just had the answer.
Yeah, and maybe this is kind of either this could just be a really bad matchup for the deck. TF Swain does have a lot of removal capabilities, and honestly, Twisted Fate into Keg with red card is just absolutely brutal. So I get it. I get why Bitter's having such a problem right now, but this might be why this deck doesn't see a whole lot of play, because if we do have something like that happen, you just run out of steam, and there's really no way to come back from this, I don't think, for Bitter.
Yeah, Darrowing also ran out of steam a lot, but they had this top deck called the Harrowing that would essentially end the game on the spot. You don't get anything like that out of Targon. You're really relying on this sort of Darius decisive maneuver play to end the game.
Yeah.
And it looks like we are just going to get the Decimate into the Crescent Guardian. And in theory, this should be enough to get the Darius online, because I don't think Melhor is necessarily going to want to block this Crescent Guardian with their Swain, but I mean, you feel like you have to, right? Otherwise, it's not getting removed from the field, and as long as that exists as a fearsome blocker, you're not getting anything done with your Swain anyway. I am curious to see if whatever was picked up by the Zap Sprayfin is enough to take this unit out, make it rain, or
Noxian Fervor.
Yeah, Noxian Fervor. I mean, I think anything the Zap Sprayfin grabs is going to be enough, but it was a Death's Hand.
Okay.
And if there's a flock and we clear the board, that's lethal in the open attack.
Yeah, that's just... So Melhor basically had all the answers. And you know what? You know why this disappoints me the most, though?
Why is that?
Because now there's a chance that if we just see this deck ran back, we're never going to see the Miswraith deck. And now we almost are required to see this Miswraith deck play now because we talked about it for like a good amount.
I don't think that deck's going anywhere. Like, I feel like it's actually a really good aggro deck. I can see it sticking around.
I think it'll stick around too, and I think it'll actually get better as more cards are released. I think that Risen Mist card, I think, was really underrated when it was first released, but the power of summoning a follower at burst speed is absolutely insane, and this is...
What is it with you? You're special summoning off field.
I know,
You're summoning monsters off of this Risen Mist. Have you gone back?
Well...
I've lost him.
Well, no, honestly, I have gotten back into Yu-Gi-Oh! Lately. I started buying more cards again I sell a lot on eBay, too, so... But yeah, now I'm mixing all these... God, I caught up on the rules with Yu-Gi-Oh! I regret that. I shouldn't have done that to myself.
So that is going to be Bitter falling in game number 1. That Darius Draven, we've seen it a couple of times on stream. I don't think it's really done anything super crazy. I feel like unless I've seen them draw a decisive maneuver, I haven't actually been able to see that deck pick up a win with my own eyes. But we're just going to move on over to the Scouts.
It was banned.
I mean, that makes sense. It's a scary deck. I don't know that. I mean, it's not as traditional as Scouts. You would kind of think that Scouts would be the ban in a lineup like this, but respecting the power of the Go Get It.
Yeah, and maybe people are kind of aware of that deck now, right? They know it's around. They know how scary Fearsome can actually be, no pun intended. And it does look like it got banned out. Now, though, it looks like we switch back. We're not doing the Scouts. I think Bitter has basically decided, okay, I need to get a win under my belt with this Draven Darius deck. If I can't do that, then I don't think I'm going to win. Why did I bring it? Yeah, exactly. So here we go. We're running it back. We do have the Draven in the first hand here, so we'll see if that's going to help get some of those axes in hand. We even have a Whirling Death. Actually, how many Whirling Deaths are... He's maining 3 Whirling Deaths, so really utilizing... the idea behind this deck is really utilizing that Whirling Death and stuns and stuff like that to still push through the full Overwhelm damage, as Overwhelm doesn't really care about stuns and stuff. So we'll see if we're able to do that.
Got an Apprehend in this deck too.
Is there Apprehend?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that one, but we do have our first confirmed Apprehend.
Hey, that's what I like to see. Getting the Apprehend action in the deck. Let's go. Best card. So good. Why did we ever doubt this card? Come on, let's be honest.
Sometimes you say things, and I have no idea how I'm supposed to respond to them.
You're supposed to support me, Boulevard. Jesus. What?
Well, you're supporting Bitter, and this isn't Gurren Lagann. I'm not supporting the Bitter that is supporting you, that is being supported by me, kind of deal. We're not going 5 layers deep on this. I'm just trying to talk about card games, SJW.
What did you just say?
I don't know. I have no idea what I just said.
Gurren Lagann.
Don't ask me that.
Speaking of anime, like Hunter x Hunter earlier, Gurren Lagann is freaking amazing. Love that anime. If you haven't watched it, chat, check it out.
All right, so we get the Spirit's Refuge down onto the Fleet Feather Tracker. This is probably the weakest Spirit's Refuge I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, getting 2 lifesteal does not feel good, but it seems like that kind of represents Melhor having not the greatest hand right now, having to throw that out there on a... Wow, okay, now this is better, though. We are going to be able to start trading with this Shen and also pulling things with this Fleet Feather Tracker.
And you see Bitter there hovering that Draven's Whirling Death, and I think he has mana for both of them, so if he really, really wants to, can not only kill this Fleet Feather Tracker, but actually level the Draven in the process by using the axes into the double Whirling Death.
Let's do it. I want to see him go all out here. We are going all out like KDA.
I don't know if that's the play, SJW.
I don't care if it's the play. I just want to see somebody go all out, because that's more reasons I could say all out, because it's a KDA reference.
You always use the axe here, right? It's 100%. If you're going to do this play, you should level the Draven, right?
Yeah. Yeah, please, pretty please do this. Please, just know what we're thinking, Bitter. Just know. He didn't do it.
I'm trying to...
He didn't do it.
I'm kind of curious as to the consideration for not leveling the Draven.
He didn't do it.
You are going to get 4 axes out of this, so you do still have a lot of damage represented that way, but... I don't know. I mean, I personally would have gone for the Draven level there, but that's not the line that Bitter is going to go for. Instead, going to sit on these 4 axes in hand. Unfortunately, tapped out here for the turn, and just once again, a turn 6 Darius that is leveled does not seem like it's in the stars for Bitter. Even if you get, you would have to go for an open attack and have Melhor just say, okay, yeah, that's fine, and then you play Decimate, and that's the only universe where you get this Darius online this turn.
Yeah, I think you're right, and we do have the axes coming out now. Maybe saving the axes purely just because Bitter recognizes, okay, we need to deal as much damage as possible. Plus, this does give you 5 attack for free this turn.
Yeah, so the consideration that Bitter made is that now you're going into the turn with 4 axes as opposed to the 2 and the leveled Draven that you would have had. The one thing that I have about that is that throwing this axe onto the Draven means that it currently has as much attack as a leveled Draven would have.
Yeah. I'm
we
still
see
a confused.
Pass out of Bitter. Yeah, this Darius is just not in the cards. But no, I wanted to talk about the apprehend, but there's this is Shen Theora. This denies. It's not gonna happen. There's no nopifies though, so maybe it actually does get slip through the cracks. It is a very inefficient mana play to deny an apprehend.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. If you do get a deny out on something like an apprehend, that doesn't feel too bad. Hey, whatever, your opponent... Okay.
Straight up unyielding spirit onto the Shen. No answer out of Bitter.
This match is fire. I love it. This is great. What? All right, hold on. I don't think I've seen an unyielding spirit on a Shen, like, ever. Like, this is pretty nuts. I guess now we get a whole lot of barriers coming out for free, not to mention the 3 damage from the Shen. I don't know if there's a way Bitter comes back into this now.
I come back into this is implying that Bitter was still in this one. We haven't seen him been able to get this Darius online. He does finally, what feels like for the first time, have a pretty solid open attack lined up, but is instead going to go for the Darius, and potentially has lethal represented between these spinning axes and this Pale Cascade. It's very likely that he's going to be able to get himself into the range for the Darius to level up. Single combat is on the table for Melhor, but that's really the only card left back in here.
Wow, this is a huge attack. We'll see where it's going to get Bitter here. We do have a Decimate in hand to do some additional finishing damage if needed. Looks like we are going to set up the blocks not on the Darius so that we can avoid this Darius leveling up here. And, wow, we even get the Draven, it looks like, is going to live. Oh, are we going to... Yeah, I guess there's really no reason to not block with the... So the overwhelm damage is still going to happen, though, right? Onto the Shen. So
The 1 damage onto the Shen is what is going to level the Darius, though, so it's not going to be a 10 attack when it does hit.
Yeah. All right, now swapping it up again. Gonna trade on this Crescent Guardian here. This is interesting to say the least. I wasn't really expecting Bitter to be in a situation where we actually even mounted this big of an attack, because fortunately he'll get some good trades. That Unyielding Spirit on the Shen is ridiculous. It's not gonna work. But wait, does he get it still with the Pale Cascade? No. Okay.
No, yeah. So the only thing that's actually dealing damage to Melhor right now is that Precious Pet.
Yeah.
So there's absolutely no universe where you get this Darius up to 10 attack.
Yeah, but we are getting the level up, though. So we are still going to put Melhor down to 10, which gives Bitter a shot.
And we take control of the board pretty commandingly, I will say. We're at 3 units to... While the Shen isn't able to die anymore, it's not really the win condition that you kind of wanted something like that on. But, you know, the Shen is going to level. That just kind of is what it is. There's no way to stop this. We're going to eventually start getting these barrier buffs onto things, and now has the Fiora as well. If there is something like a riposte, yeah, you're going to be able to take out this Darius. There's no answer left on the side of Bitter. Pale Cascade might be able to draw into something like a Whirling Death, but I think that... is Melhor going to commit a riposte, or are we just softening up the Darius?
It's got to be a riposte. Yeah, there it is.
There is the riposte. And Pale Cascade will... Oh, nope. It is going to be... So that riposte is going to level the Shen, which means that the Shen barrier is going to give the +3 attack as well. So this will go up to 9. Pale Cascade, not an option to save this. Apprehend... Apprehend is a slow spell, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. We don't have rally effects at fast speed. Good to know.
Yeah, yeah, that would be nice. Oh, you mean like Relentless Pursuit before it got changed? That's right.
So, yeah, we're going to throw down the Decimate as our opponent is tapped out of Deny Mana. They're down to 6 HP.
Yeah, we still have a shot.
We've got... Yeah, I mean, we've got a pretty good shot at that. We've got 6 attackers. We've still got a Pale Cascade, and no matter what we draw, if it's kind of a dud, we can discard it to the Spinning Axe, but
what do we do?
Is not a dud by any stretch of the imagination.
What do we do? Do we play it? Are we playing it? What are we worried about? I think
Bitter's got to math this one out. You know, single combat, concerted strike, they are all on the table en masse because there is an undying Shen on the side of Melhor. There is absolutely no risk to throwing out as many single combats as you need to clear the board out of your opponent. And you are just barely representing lethal with all of the attackers that are going to get through. Pale Cascade does buff that up a little bit. So unless Melhor has 2 removal spells, then yeah, you're safe to play the Darius. But if one of those removal spells is Concerted Strike, the Darius isn't making a difference.
Yeah, well, it does.
I think it is fine to go for the Darius. There's a steel formation.
That is a big boy.
That's about as bad as it gets.
But if it does block the Darius, we are still getting through 1 overwhelm damage, which could be the difference maker here as we, go wide with everything else.
The 1 damage was already being represented by that Spiderling, so nothing in terms of damage has changed for Bitter. There has been a much larger mana commitment on the side of Melhor, though.
Yeah. And now...
just doesn't have it.
That's game.
Even if there was a single combat thrown out, you still have the Pale Cascade to buff up a remaining unit, and Bitter's going to tie up the series 1-1.
Wow, that was not how I really was expecting Bitter to, unfortunately, lose that there. It seemed like we were off to a really bad start, but...
Oh, and we leveled the Fiora. Good job, Melhor.
Yeah, a little late there, unfortunately, but yeah, Bitter being able to turn it around here and take home the win. That means we will tie it up and go to game 3 here in round 5. The winner definitely has a much better shot of making the top 8 than the loser. In fact, I believe the loser will most likely be out of the top 8 consideration. So, looks like... Oh, wait, is he playing... Oh, I was going to say, is Morp still in chat? We might have scouts with Shell Shocker coming down because I saw that Shell Shocker on the cover.
You have the deck list in front of you.
You know me. I'm not looking at I'm looking at what's going on in front of me, all right? This is some action-packed gameplay, all right?
All right, I'll take a look at the deck list.
No, there's no Shell Shocker. There's one. It's kind of a weird 1 mana selection. We have 3 Fleet Feather, 2 Jagged Butcher, and 1 Cithria. So really, ultimately, only running 6 1-drops, and only 2 Ranger's Resolve. And honestly, every time I see only 2 Ranger's Resolve, I always question it a little bit.
Is 6 1-drops not the norm?
I don't know. Well, see, I'm used to playing Shell Shocker, so now I play like 8 or 9 usually. So depends on what you're trying to accomplish, I guess. So great first turn for Bitter. Gotta love the first turn Fleet Feather for the free 2 damage. And going up against what we've discussed earlier today in what seems to be the disadvantageous matchup versus Fiora Shen Barrier. We'll see if that's the case. Right now, it looks like B1tter's got the better draws coming out here. Do we pass or do we just play the Misfortune? Looks like we are going to go ahead and open with the Misfortune. I don't think this is at risk for too much. And yeah, wow, this is going to feel pretty good as well. Getting the attack off, getting the additional 4 damage pushed through. So great aggressive start for B1tter. Unfortunately, you know, that River Shaper for B1tter's still going to go ahead and pull that spell, but lots of units to go ahead and restock this board. We even have a scout unit to drop here in the Grizzled Ranger on turn 4 to start to expedite this level up. Ooh, this is good too. Wow.
I mean, we have the Misfortune, we have the Fiora to match it, but Misfortune just a little bit better, and we do have the barrier coming down as well, and Melhor doesn't have a way to pop that. Single combat is such a bad way to pop barrier spells, and it looks like we're even going to get a proactive riposte here to kill this Brightsteel Protect or Spirit's Refuge. Okay,
so at least the Fiora lives, but I think what's more important here is B1tter is keeping this Misfortune alive. And an alive Misfortune, in my experience, means that the Scout deck has exponentially greater chance of actually taking home a W in this matchup. So we'll see if that's the case. We have the Scout unit out. Doesn't look like there's going to be anything to stop the Scout attack, so that's 1 attack closer to leveling the MF. Trading with the Brightsteel too. So this is looking good for the Scout deck. Not anymore. It's not. That changes things a little bit. Oh,
only a little bit. We are going to get the riposte to be able to save it. I mean, the Fiora is not going to die, but we do still have a really decent attack on the side of B1tter. You know, this one more unit is going to be able to go back in, push another 4 damage potentially, and Melhor's got to find a way to kill this Misfortune pretty immediately, but if he goes for any kind of development to do it, the Brightsteel Protector again gets to come out onto this Misfortune. And
oh yeah, I was gonna say, don't do that, man. Please don't.
I was getting a little bit scared there.
Yeah, I mean, because you know, on the side of Melhor, you're not gonna be able to really block that badge barrier. You need to keep this Fiora at this point. And wow, okay, that is. We potentially have Brightsteel. Yeah. I'm feeling Brightsteel on the Misfortune into Bannerman. This is just too good, man.
Well, you're still going to lose the Misfortune.
But you now are also going into a turn where you will have Genevieve.
Not. Oh. Are we not popping the barrier?
That's interesting. What else?
See, I was gonna ask if it actually would have been better to Bannerman first, so that if Melhor wants to scout attack the Misfortune, they lose the Genevieve, and then if they don't scout attack the Misfortune, you get down the Brightsteel Protector after the fact.
I'm curious as to why Melhor wouldn't just go ahead and challenge the Misfortune to pop the barrier there and then kill it.
Maybe, I mean, there is still 4 mana left on the side of B1tter. You could be worried about something like a Riposte or a Sharp Sight. Sharp Sight would have been devastating if you go to try and pop that barrier.
Yeah, and Sharp Sight's such a good addition to these decks. Speaking...
Oh, look, Sharp Sight.
Sharp Sight. Good call, Boulevard. That caster vision. And yeah, this is bad. This is very bad for Melhor.
Does Misfortune level off this attack, or do we have to make it all the way to the main cow? That's not good.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that Melhor can kill this outside of a riposte into a single combat, because that Sharp Sight is going to save it from Concerted Strike.
Yeah, this is just going to be... This is definitely 6 damage and probably more. Because this Misfortune will also level up. This might just be game this turn, especially with the Sharp Sight. So a couple things here. The Sharp Sight also plays around things, you know, like single combat and stuff to actually kill this Misfortune, but also provides lethal. If that's okay, that is not going to do it. So I think that's game.
Yeah, I believe that the Sharp Sight on a full attack here is just lethal.
Yeah, so you scout, you get 3, 4, 5, 6 damage.
I don't think you scout because your opponent's at 0 mana. I think you just attack with everything here, and that's game.
No, you go for maximum damage all the time, Boulevard. Okay, what are you talking about? Jesus. It's like you never played a card game. What's up with you? Yeah, wow, it's 7-7-3. Yeah, that's enough. So it doesn't matter.
I play card games to win. I don't need to deal maximum damage. Zero is a low enough number for me.
Time efficiency, right?
Yeah, you know, I always talk about how I like to be time efficient. And, you know, it's not often that we see an unyielding Spirited Fiora lose the game, but it is one of those things kind of like when we talk about we'd never see Misfortune lose the game. If it's the last thing that you're doing in an act of defiance, then yeah, it's going to lose the game.
An act of defiance. All right, B1tter taking it there. So we're going to get right into the next round 5 game. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on that bell for when it does go up. But as always, everybody stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you. Peace out.